$2 for making it halfway, you know. And but he said I was like literally red in the face by the end. It's like he gave me points for serious respect for an absolute effort. It did taste beyond the spice. It actually did taste really good. So I went back for more, and then this time I put a reasonable amount of spice on the next dish. And it was, hey, it didn't hurt me in the long run. So hey,
you survived. Lived to fight another day.
yes,
Lived to eat another day, more likely.
yeah.
My.
So, and I think that chef at the wok is like at the stove is like, so he come back and he's like, again with the raised eyebrow going. He looks at my plate and he kind of grins like, "Oh, learned your lesson this time, huh?"
Perfect. But yeah, is everyone ready at the start line who wishes to race?
Green laser over my head. I'm ready.
Almost. I've gone wandering off in a different direction.
Okay, I'll stop for just a second.
The real question is, are we going to get the course right this time?
Yeah, well, I hope so. I mean, this one's a bit easier to follow than it was before, so we'll soon find out. We'll soon find out. So yeah, just go to the end and turn right basically, and then you turn right again when you come round to where we are now.
Yeah.
So it should be fine. I mean, fingers crossed. But yeah, the only thing I was going to add to for our little curry epic stories was, does anyone watch Hot Ones on YouTube? Because that's a really fun series for all this kind of stuff. It's usually celebrities, the ones who end up with the stuff, because they're actually having to eat it live, well, at least when they're taping the show. And it's kind of funny to see some of their reactions, because you can't actually predict a lot of the time, because they go through so many different kind of sources, and some of them are insanely hot, and to see them kind of zoning out because they're in utter pain, and it is kind of fascinating to watch. It's kind of funny as well, but yeah, it's pretty similar to some of the stuff that we've been talking about.
I have not seen that channel.
I will put a link in the server, probably in Off Topic or something. But it's a great series, yeah.
Oh.
A number of years ago, I used to live in Texas. I lived near Houston. But there's a place called Palestine, which has nothing to do with the Israeli bombing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And every year they had a bike ride called the Tour de Peppers. It was basically in the same day as their pepper festival in the town. We did this bike ride with my friends, and then from work, and then we went to the pepper fest afterwards, and they had that. I mean, there's the usual thing: loads of stalls, people selling stuff, and then there was this semi-trailer parked at the end of the main street with a chili eating competition on it, and so you had all these guys. It was all guys, of course, standing on this trailer and the screaming front man. And he starts off with things like jalapenos, the stuff that kind of everyday Tex-Mex has.
Right.
And you got to eat it, and he makes sure everybody chews, and he goes up. It keeps going up and up and up in strength. Each pepper's a bit hotter than the last one, and it comes to the last. It's some kind of ghost pepper thing, it's like habaneros or something. And there's 3 guys left at this stage, and there is now going to be a last man standing, because all these people are these last 3 remaining. They're chewing down this, and you can see 2 of the 3 are in excruciating pain from this thing, and the guy at the front is making sure they don't just swallow it whole; they actually chew this thing. But the last guy, he's like this. I don't know. Looks like somebody in his 50s wearing dungarees. Kind of hillbilly type thing, but with long hair.
Right.
And he's chewing on this thing like it's an apple. It's absolutely nothing to it. It was the most amazing thing ever.
You do get some people who have a very, very high pain threshold, and I'm sure that was one of them.
Yeah.
That sounds quite alarming, bud. Anyway, let's
His taste buds are probably burnt out from years of doing it.
probably, yeah. It's like Dave Lister in Red Dwarf. He's got 2 working taste buds left.
Somehow I knew Red Dwarf was going to work its way.
It
into
always
this
does, to be fair. You know, it always, in one way, shape, or form, it's got so many quotable lines to it, to do with space, directly or indirectly. I mean, space and curries, it had to be said, didn't it?
Oh yeah, of course it did. Almost contractually obligated.
Yep. Anyhow, on the behalf of Apollo 14, we bring you... Yeah, right, here we go. Everyone's ready to race. And we have 2 spotters on either side of me. And we're ready to go in... Start the count. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! And they're off. Watch the different techniques as they all try and jump their way into the lead.
Oh. Ouch.
Someone spun round already.
Big rock.
Should keep myself at a reasonable altitude this time.
I can't believe I stuck that landing.
Who'd be having the lead over here?
Been much worse this time than last time.
I did great that first round. Of course, I figure 8 at the end of the course instead of going around the way we were supposed to.
I think the leader is here in the spotlight, yep. See, I'm going to get slightly ahead of this. So that we can
I've
see
just
what
had a
we
head-on
do.
crash with another, whatchamacallit. Oh, weird. I've got a feeling I'm going to get lapped doing this.
Yeah, we're trying to get 3 laps on this one done. Let's see if we can. Oh, someone ship's just been dismissed. There's the cutter. Yeah, a couple of other ships are being dismissed as we speak.
Oh, I've just gone straight into a boulder.
Ooh, that was close.
Ooh. Bit of a crunchy going on after that.
I heard a boom going on.
Sorry. Pardon me.
Another curry, is
Oh.
Ah,
it?
fireworks.
That's the one that exploded again, but that was the fireworks.
Nice. I think most of the curry talk didn't actually make it into the audio because I forgot to turn that channel on, but yeah, we got some of the tail end of it.
Yeah,
They're probably confused as what the hell's going on with these
start
people.
with.
Yeah.
I was trying to keep up with things watching stream, but I'm like, oh, there's no audio.
Yeah, it's but it's on now, and that's the main thing. Right. Yeah. If you're a spotter, try and keep out the way of the SRVs.
Yeah, I thought I'd do better with the not the scarab, the whatchamacallit,
Scorpion, yeah.
but I'm not.
Yeah, it's a very
I'm spitting
different
out less
animal,
often,
yeah.
but I'm spitting out less often, but it's top speed and lack of
Whoa.
thrust.
Okay, we're coming up to the end of lap 1, I think, for the leader.
Is it 3 laps?
Yeah, we're trying to do 3 laps. We did 1 and it seemed to be okay, so let's try and do 3 laps. Yeah, we're coming up to the end of lap 1. See if we can make it to 3. Yeah.
Bad shape.
Right. I'll do the laser a bit higher up just to give you an idea. Obviously, this is you're in the right place and whatnot. So yeah, I think lap 1 is coming to a close. Lap 2 is beginning. It's the flying technique that's kind of it's trickier than it looks, definitely. I think Kit seems to have more or less mastered it because of the sheer amount of planetary circumnavigation he's done. And some other people have mastered it as well by the looks. I don't think the Scorpion really flies properly. It kind of like does kind of a hop, really.
It doesn't thrust for long enough.
Yeah.
I don't find the flying to be the difficult part so much as the hitting the ground and not losing complete control when you do so.
Yeah, that's more difficult to control, isn't it? Because the beast can do any number of different things.
Yes, it's always a nice surprise to you're wondering what's going to happen when you land.
And it just plays out perfectly.
Yeah. So I think that's most people have completed lap 1. We're about to complete lap 1.
The trouble is you've got no yaw control in flying, so you have to just roll like 90 degrees and then turn and thrust a bit and to be able to change direction.
Yeah.
So if you take off and you're going sideways, you've got to do all this stuff, otherwise you land sideways and just end up crashing.
Exactly.
I catch myself quite frequently twisting as if there were a yaw control, and there isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
It'd be nice if there was a yaw control. Okay, so maybe there's people coming around the other side now, hopefully. Yeah, that's right, get it away. That one is complete. Now, the other side, yeah, where the spotlight is. Premature fireworks. But it's all good though. Right, where the spotlight is probably where the leader is right now. I think the leader's coming around to... It's coming down the back straight now. If it can be called a straight. Yeah, compared to some courses, this is relatively flat, but underline the word relatively a few times.
I do find if you're going to land real askew, it's best to go ahead and zero your throttle before you hit the ground. It tends to stick when you do that instead of going every which way.
Yeah, I think you're right. Also, most people tend to go more towards the sort of macho one of keeping the momentum going, but it kind of ends up costing you momentum if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
Especially you end up spinning and pointing in the wrong direction. I mean, it's no momentum at all.
And the trouble is when you do that, you get turned the right way and you give it some gas, but you give it too much because you're trying to make up time. You end up just spinning again.
Exactly, yeah. That's the way it works.
And then you end up spinning out third and fourth. It takes you about 5 goes before you finally take a breath.
As the
and then
panic
only
sets
open the
in.
throttle a little bit.
I think I accidentally hit Logan with the laser earlier on. It's showing him as a little red dot, which it shouldn't be. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
No
I
problem.
think I drove into your laser actually.
Oh, okay. He might be potentially... I think maybe either one of you or both has actually ended up being hit by the laser.
I got very close first round. I don't think it got me though.
Okay. Lap 2, I think, is coming. Yeah, lap 2 is now starting.
Lap 3 now.
Okay. So, restart, I should say. And,
Ooh, getting some good height there.
yeah. Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, that sort of purplish Mandalay is almost like a marker as well as you come around. You're not too far from the start and finish line when you see that. I think we were,
Looking up Bolt Hill, trying to get out of it.
fortunate to find this planet in the Waypoint system, because I was looking around the nearby systems and there were some very kind of mid places. They weren't terrible, but there just weren't any outstanding sites that I was finding. And I think the same with other people who are doing scouting as well. It's like, there's some good places, definitely, but none of them are like great, you know, or sort of epic. And this one is more epic than most. At least in the sort of this era of Elite anyway.
Oh, someone catching up to the leader. Yeah,
I hope
going to
so.
be a close race.
I think Logan's now completing their second. Started their third lap.
We got a new leader.
Ooh, this is going to get
No, we
interesting.
haven't. Yes, we have.
Yeah, I guess it's always correct. I think lap 2 is complete for everyone.
I'm way behind. Lopping around.
Whoop. Sorry about that.
What happened?
Find the flying SRVs.
Do we have the leader coming through now?
Yeah.
Who was that who's we've won the race?
Quicksilver.
Okay, cool.
I just finished Quicksilver.
Nice. Well done. So we've got the gold
Thanks.
medal there. Who's coming in for the silver?
The airborne.
Not me. I'm still halfway around the last lap.
Don't know who that was. I can't see from here.
Yeah. I'm battling for last place.
It's fairly close for second and third.
Yeah, they just passed.
I think.
I have some managers.
And
brain
it's actually a
cells like that.
Scorpion in third place.
Well done to the Scorpion driver. That's actually quite a performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not an easy thing to do in the Scorpion.
I think they're off on another lap. Oh, sorry. Maybe they've only just completed
Possibly, yeah.
2 laps.
I was going to say, if the Scorpion driver is anywhere near the leaders, that's actually a good show, definitely. Yeah. I think with the Scorpion and this kind of terrain, you'd have to make basically no mistakes and, you know, just be really accurate everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, I was spinning out so much with the Scarab, I switched to the Scorpion because I thought, well, I'm not getting over 20 really in the Scarab anyway. And if I can do 20 in the Scorpion and not spin out half as much, then I'll actually go faster.
Yeah.
I remember there was this one time when we were doing a mountain climb in the Scarab, and I kept spinning out so badly that I decided, oh, screw this. I just aimed my back end up the slope and went backwards. I went faster.
I think both categories of SRV do actually have that. You can actually get more torque going backwards and forwards for some bizarre reason.
What I'm doing now, and what I do in the Scarab as well, is I go in there, I drive it from the turret, and if it spins out and I end up pointing backwards, I just keep going backwards. Because the turret will keep pointing the same direction. The only trouble with the Scorpion turret, it feels like you've got a gun growing out of your chest.
More lap,
That's-
or are we done?
That's lap 3 for me.
I think that should be it for most people.
I'm about done on the laps. I'm just pulling up now on that Mandalay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's one person
Probably
behind
mine,
Logan
probably.
as well, or 2 people behind Logan, possibly.
Why do you keep doing this?
Whoa!
It's like the curry thing. I don't know, why do you keep doing it? You know, because it's fun.
No, I mean, like the SRV is like, I wanted you to go 10 degrees, not 90.
Yeah, it does happen.
Providing an obstacle course for the finishing laser.
Aw, I wanted to go ahead and go through the laser.
Oh, and I'm trying to seriously not shoot people down today.
I was purposefully aiming for the laser.
I thought you might be, because I think this is happening too often. It's like they're wandering in front of my laser way too much. This is beginning to look a bit sort of almost suicidal at this point.
Yeah.
It's a space madness.
It is,
Well,
yeah.
I
The shiny green
finished
thing.
with
Go towards the
48%
shiny green
hull
thing.
integrity.
Yep.
I think that's everyone, is it? I don't think anyone else is still incoming.
So, yeah.
Nice. It's all good then. Okay. Yeah, I think a few people earlier were trying to climb this particular hill. And, yeah, it's a steep one, isn't it? But that might be like a
Turns
scorpion
out-
in reverse kind of territory.
Well, the ones I saw going like literally straight up that mountain were scorpions. I tried it in my Scarab, it didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not bad. Someone's trying now. Let's have a look. See how far they get. Let's follow them.
I'll give it a go. The Scarab.
Let's see. Oh yeah, that's Vagabond. He was doing that earlier.
Yeah, he's got a scorpion by the looks. Yeah, it looks like it's getting pretty good traction up there.
Oh yeah.
I'm going at this really steep one. It's
And
about
they've made it. Well
70
done, well done. Good stuff, good stuff.
65 to 70 degrees slope, and the Scorpion does it just fine.
Little flips at the top is a nice touch.
The Scarab tends to start backsliding when you get
Yeah.
up to about 50 degrees.
Yeah.
I think this is the kind of time I do miss the sheer insanity of Horizon's terrain, because you'd be like 17 kilometers up at this almost like impassable terrain, and everyone's trying to desperately sort of get through it. But it was an interesting kind of challenge in its own way.
Oh yeah. What
But it
was
looked
that
kinda
famous
mental.
mountain everybody tried to climb that basically took you completely out of the not atmosphere, because the planet didn't have one. but it was
Neverest, I
a-
think, probably.
It's like
That was
above the
Yeah.
dropout.
Yeah, they culled it a little bit from the so to actually get it just about within the kind of cutoff. So yeah. But you're right, Mount Everest is still, I think, the biggest in any version of Elite. Was it like 50 kilometers or something like that up? And that's kind of
Something
mad.
like that, yeah. And you could literally jump your SRV off the top tip of that thing, and I think I don't think you could achieve orbit, but you certainly were in space.
Yeah. Oh, I guess it says 34 kilometers high. I think I might be thinking of the first version of it that did actually stick out the top of into orbital cruise, basically. Yeah, you're right. I think the cold version that they did, like when they pulled it down a bit, was about 34 kilometers. And also, it's one of those mountains, very easy to think that, oh, you got to the top, but then you hadn't. It's like a false peak again, and yeah, that happened a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a fun one for
He's
the stream.
making it up
Someday-
that side pretty nicely.
Someday, if we ever get, to be able to land on true Earth-like or atmosphere worlds, I do want to go to Mars
Oh yeah,
and try an ascent of Olympus.
that would be epic. I mean, that's just like the biggest volcano in the solar system, isn't it? It's an extinct volcano, but impressive nonetheless.
Oh
Now,
yeah,
that sticks out the atmosphere of Mars. That's true.
it does. Yeah. Well, I
Uh,
can't. Well, that's annoying.
What?
I recalled my ship, and I have yet to find an angle to get in with my SRV.
It was no one else trying to climb now as well.
Let's
I
see
wanna
how
go
fast
canyon
we
ro-
can make this.
Oh yeah, I agree with Getadoy. Canyon racing in Valles Marineris. Well,
Oh, yeah,
hold on.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
Getadoy. There's a problem with that. Valles Marineris is no longer Valles Marineris. It's more like Marineris Marineris. It's an ocean.
That's interesting.
So it could work, but not really.
Yeah, it's not Mars as we know it now in the Elite universe. It's been terraformed, doesn't it? So
Right.
it's not the same. Bits of it are going to be the same, but not
It's
everything
like-
is.
Mars,
like
Jim,
a
but not as we know it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Racing in
Olympus
the rainy season.
Yeah, the extraordinary rainy season. But no, the Olympus would be the same,
Mm-hmm.
but with green all around the base.
True.
I think you could still do some really cool, semi-canyon racing in Valles Marineris, but it would be more like racing down the length of, say, Lake Powell in the southeastern United States.
I think B8's mentioning that it's Olympus, where the federal capital is in Elite. It is. I think it's Olympus Village. Not really a village anymore, but that's what they called it. It's the funny thing, because you can land on it in Elite 2 and 3. The terraform Mars and Olympus Village and stuff, and there's a couple other settlements that you can land on that are starports. But yeah, it's inaccessible in this era of Elite. Hopefully not forever, as you say. Oh, someone else has got to the top now. Oh, there's a couple of people who have made in. Well done, everyone. I think they're scarabs, these ones. So here we are.
There was some footage I saw a couple of years ago of some. Was it a Blue Angel or just some random Navy pilot in a? Must have been a Blue Angel. They must have gotten permission to do this.
Right.
But they were like racing. They were flying like almost literally like 50 feet above the water of this particular bay, probably San Diego Bay, I bet.
Okay.
And just they were like literally like I don't think they were at Mach 1. They weren't going that fast.
Yeah.
But they were going fast enough that the shock wave on the front of the jet was visible because of all the moisture in the air right above the bay.
Okay.
And that was pretty amazing to look at.
Makes sense. Yeah, that sounds good though.
Do you think we have time for another activity?
Probably not, though messing about is probably okay for now, because I'll take a little while to get my orbit sort of established and everything, so you can keep doing what you're doing here with the climbing.
Well,
that's probably the best thing. If everyone wants to keep doing that,
okay.
that's absolutely fine. See, because these two scarabs I think have done very well to get to the top here, because the Scorpion is obviously a better climber than these, but full marks for getting up here in this
I was
one.
just thinking about some formation flying in this canyon.
Oh, yeah.
Just to the west of.
Yeah, a bit of a canyon
side.
cruise. Or
Actually, we can do a canyon
Do
cruise,
that
and then
while you're
I'll
looking for
I was going to say, what I'll do, we can start the canyon cruise, and then I'll just shoot up vertically, and you can keep flying, because that's kind of that's worked well in the past. That kind of format, I think. So, which direction canyon cruise do you were you recommending?
to the
Ken?
west. If you can find me, I'm sort of hovering in it now.
Yeah. So that 270 degrees to the west.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, let's find Kit over the other side of the mountain, I think.
I'm trying to find a place to recall my ship where I can actually get into it.
Haha. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I see Kit now as the other side of in the valley, the other side of here. Yeah, you go slightly west to about 270-ish degrees, 280, you'll find him. I'm just cruising over there now myself.
Hopefully that'll work.
Yeah.
Alright, let's see if that works.
Yeah, these canyon cruises are good. I was going to say, we haven't done them in a while, so it's a good idea to resume doing it.
looks a little bit more promising. Aha, there we go. Now I can
Yeah.
get there.
I think this, obviously with Canyon Cruises, anyone who hasn't done them before, we're going to hit a kind of similar cruise speed, about, well, 200-ish, depending. What's the slowest speed of anyone here? Because some of them are not going to be fitted out for racing, are they?
Or what's the fastest speed of the slowest ship?
That's what I'm getting at, yeah. As in, what's like the maximum, like a cruisable speed for one of the heavier sort of ships. If you can do about 200 or 300, that would be wonderful. 200 is probably easier considering how close to the ground we actually are. So
It'll be that Anaconda that'll be the slowest, no doubt.
So yeah, let's agree on a speed about 200 and wait for everyone. Yeah, that's okay. Johnny Flash saying about 202. So if we hit about 200, then everyone should be able to keep at that speed. Plus we're quite close to the ground anyway.
Lead.
Cool. Right.
Then we
Well.
can match our speed to his. Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
one way of
Do
doing
we
it.
need anyone else who's due to be coming in the meantime, as the Phantom overtakes everyone into its air show routine? It's a good one.
Oh, that was beautiful.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'll reduce my altitude a little bit. Vis-a-vis everyone. Okay. We should all get into some kind of loose formation and start the cruise in a second. Yeah, Kit, do you want to lead the cruise off?
Oh, right, okay. Yeah.
It was your idea, so you might as well take the lead on this one.
Okay.
I'll be close behind
how
you.
fast I'm doing because I'm in free camera at the moment.
That's fine.
Don't know
I'll
what
be
speed I'm doing.
I'll be getting to it. I'm following you quite close anyway, so I'll peak up at about 200 as well. So as everyone should. I'm about 100 at the moment. I need to pick it up a bit more. Yeah, you're doing about 200, I think, ish now, so that's all good. Yeah. Yeah, following Kit through the canyons. Oh.
I missed. I went the wrong side.
It's all good though. Found a new canyon, a nice wide one.
Alright.
I'm at 209 at the moment myself. 202. Yeah. Yeah, you guys keep on cruising and I'll break just for the airshow variety and my own odds and sods I have to do. Right. I'll catch you in a short while.
Flirted with the ground a little too much there.
I think my free camera was almost inside the ship that's following me. I lost vision completely for a moment.
Too close for missiles. Switching to guns. Somebody was going to say it.
Oh, of course. That actually was a real ATC loop there.
Yeah, yeah.
Tower came back with, that's one of the funniest things I've ever heard.
Hmm. 15 meters might be a little close.
It is quite a beautiful world.
It is. I'm over here skipping my rock off a pond.
Ganadoi says, this is bacteria searching altitude.
Yes.
And how right he is. I'm usually at a much more nose-down angle for it, though.
Yeah.
It's a nice thing about the glass panel on the floor of the Mandalay. You can
Yeah.
see stuff in front of you better.
You can also do that to do that with Silver 5.
I will say, since I swapped out the Phantom to go back to the Asp, I've had much less trouble finding landing spots. I just watched twice now a Crate Phantom phase completely through the Mandalay.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
I'm just getting into game now. Where are you all?
At the Waypoint 7, Moon 3A.
Oh, okay, so you're still at that event point. That's great because
Yes.
I should be on the ground there right now once I get in.
Yeah, we've been
we have
canyon
moved on.
cruising, so we're probably about 40 k's away from there now.
Oh, I think even further.
But we're
Okay.
we're shortly going to go to space anyway.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, once I'm in, if somebody shoots me a team invite, I will get together with you.
Right, okay, I found the location, so this is as good a time as any. I will start inviting you all into the instance, and this is a good one, I hope.
Okay, I'll take off and join you. So I'm in as Grizz rather than as JBL.
Okay, I was looking for JBL, thinking, I can't see them. Griselda Bear, isn't it? Yes. We have Boate's Void as well. Let's bring.
Ah, the mass lock
Thank
is
you.
real.
Yes, yes, indeed. Okay, so I've got Logan and Griselda in my wing right now.
Ooh.
Oh no, I'm Braben tunneling.
Oh dear.
Yeah, myself as well. Apologies if my Phantom got in anybody's way down there.
There we go. I kind of miss how the Super Cruise trails used to be absolutely blinding when exiting from a
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like one extreme to the other. They were too bright, now they're just too faint. It's like, can we have some kind of balance, please?
Yeah, or maybe have that be something you can tune in your own graphic.
Well, exactly, yeah. That would be wonderful. Because you're right, that's about saying, is like sometimes you hit the slipstream of someone else, be blinded for a fraction of a second, and wouldn't know when the hell you were going.
You may be able to adjust it to some degree with the interface editors. I know I've tweaked my
Sure, yeah.
planetary probes down to almost invisible because some of those color schemes are just loud.
Sure, yeah. It's the wonderful world of PCs, though. You can adjust a lot more than any console could ever do. Okay, I think Boate's Void has made it into the instance. Wonderful. It's one of those constellations that it's sort of got a whole different bunch of pronunciations. Bootes is the most common one. Oh, Logan's made it in as well, excellent.
significant about the system that's got so many carriers in it, or are they all ours?
I think though
There's another.
most of them are
we've
ours
got
at
3.
least.
There's Tamam Itsune, or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's
that's
AG
AG's.
Duran's.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. So that's one of ours.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you're right. There are some
Oh,
like
I'm
big
gonna
nebulae that you do
refrain
find the odd sort of
from-
person has nothing to do with us at all.
Inquisition is one of ours as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought Inquisition was actually a DSSA carrier at one of our earlier waypoints. Apparently not.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nice to see a sort of dockable little station when you arrive in a system, DSSA or otherwise. You know, it's always nice to have that. But that's the thing, is you can go across the whole galaxy these days without your own carrier quite easily because of the whole DSSA or sort of array.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
I mean, when I was doing, say, JBL's 42 expedition and the sort of buckyballing race in that, I was using a lot of the DSSA sort of stations as almost like waypoints in a way, because that was like the only place I could actually sort of repair and rearm very quickly before like getting underway again. And it's not necessarily the most direct route all the time. Sometimes I didn't dock on them because it was just so far out of my way, it would take me like too much time out of the race, but most of the time I could usually plot a fairly kind of decent route within the sort of the DSSA array. Constellation is probably the right word actually, rather than array, but you know what I mean. It's one of those things I wouldn't necessarily recommend a circumnavigation of the galaxy via buckyballing, because you don't get to see much, you don't get to scan much. It's just like, yeah, I mean, it's nice to just sort of like get over huge distances, but it does become very space madness territory kind of quite quickly.
Yeah, I got lucky. Did have to do a bit of buckyballing the last day, yesterday, but that was only after I had been sidetracked on my way there. About 9 jumps out, I discovered a system with 69 worlds.
Wow.
Planets, moons, an Earth-like, a water world, ringed water world.
I got a team invite. I can find the instance again.
Sure.
Oh.
I could use one as
It's
well.
Infinity Devil.
Yes, me too. please.
Sure, I've been sending a few
me too.
invites
I've
out,
not had
and as sometimes
not
happens,
lucky
they've not
from
always been
buckyballing.
landing by the looks of it. I blame the bugs in the game that FDev have not dealt with. You know, to be fair, they have dealt with a few recently, but not this one.
Close. Good.
Now I got a full wing now. So
I swear I spent like 5 hours trying to be thorough and scan everything, but in the end I just had to cut
okay.
it short and just hit the high points and buckyball the rest of the way in.
The target is also in the crew lounge chat as well. Just bear with me, I'll be back in just a moment.
Alright, I'm here. Got me out. I see Logan.
Hello.
You want to mute your team chatter, Logan?
Huh?
Getting team chatter, the team voice, at the same
Oh.
time as the Discord voice.
Then let me do something with that. Let me turn that off. Disable voice comms. How's that?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, the system I was talking about, both the water world and the Earth-like had relatively large moons. Which,
Nice.
if you're looking at long-term realism or viability for a colony, that's perfect because, you know, as we've found out over the last few decades of studying the Earth and the Moon, you really do need a moon, or at least for the planet to be in like a double planet system in order for it to regulate the axial tilt and just to keep the planet from doing a Uranus and tipping over on its side. Makes you wonder, in Space 1999, what happened to Earth after, you know?
I haven't watched that in so long. I last watched it when Netflix was still sending out DVDs in the mail.
Wow.
Wow, that's like prehistoric times, that is.
I remember that.
Somebody asked the other day, is there any bits of ancient tech you miss? And I gotta say, I actually miss the VHS days. Not because it was superior, but just because that was, as an anime fan, that was the majority of the time that I spent as an anime fan, from like the early 80s all through the mid 2000s, was using VHS tapes and tape trading.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine had a contact in Japan, and they'd trade for stuff. They wanted like Gundam and all that. And I asked him, what do they want in return? And it's like going, they want things like Airwolf and Knight Rider.
I'm going to act my beard's age instead of my age for a moment and say I miss when phones were wired and could be left off the hook, and when cell phones flipped shut and only made calls and text messages.
There you go. I did like the flip phones just because, as a Star Trek fan, hey, communicator. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
True.
Nextel.
But yeah, I think the record I saw one time for convention tape copying, that's where you basically get somebody playing something and then everybody else chain linking their VHS machines to that one. 8 machines, 1 playing, 7 recording. We had the AC completely down in the room, in the hotel room, as far as it would go, and it was still barely managing to keep down below 80 degrees in that room.
It's a very 80s story, that one, or 90s story for that.
Yes.
I like how you actually own the media when you buy VHS tape or DVD or CD,
Yeah.
whatever it is. But you're really just renting it these days.
Don't get me started on the subscription model.
The same with games as well, isn't it? You know.
Man.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh, that's a button.
Yeah.
I think it's a button for a lot of people our age.
That's the thing. It's okay permanence in digital form if you know it's going to be permanent, but you have no guarantee that it is. That's the thing.
Yeah. They say the DVD rot is a thing, but I've never seen it.
Maybe in
I
300
forgot.
years.
I have one CD that has experienced CD rot.
Okay.
Yeah. And how many CDs do you own?
More than one. I haven't really looked because I haven't actually put a CD in the machine for quite a long time. But only one of them has actually. Only one of them has actually shown any sign of CD rot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I own quite a few CDs, and they seem fine.
Speaking of tapes, somebody mentioned I miss cassette decks in car stereos.
I actually occasionally still enjoy the sound of a cassette recording, that lo-fi kind of
Yeah.
muddiness.
Yeah, it's pretty good
When,
still. Yeah.
when I was at school, sort of mid-teenager age, we had a computer room which was networked. BBC Micro. There's a network called the Acorn low-cost network called Econet that was made by Acorn, and so eventually they actually networked all the BBC Micros in the school. So you had the main computer room, and a couple other buildings had a couple of machines in as well. And a friend and I wrote a multi-user dungeon which was a multi-user text adventure. You could play on Econet. Anyway, a few years ago, the teacher who ran it ran the computer room. Because we didn't have any computing courses at school, but he was one of the physics teachers who ran the computer lab. Sent me a message on Facebook saying, I kept because what I did, I managed to convince it because we had a file server, SJ Research file server, and we actually had a hard disk in it, a 40 megabyte hard disk for the entire school basically. So all your normal accounts are on there. But I managed back in the day, I managed to convince him because we got 100k space on the hard disk. I managed to convince him to put a floppy disk in the file server because the floppy disk drives weren't being used, and that way I could have 800k on the network. So anyway, we did this. We put and it was the mud was running out off this 800k floppy disk. And anyway, a few years ago, he sent me a message on Facebook saying, "Oh, I kept all the disks." When they decommissioned all of that in probably sometime in the mid-90s and put probably PC network in by then.
Right.
Do you want them? And I said, yeah. So he sent me all the floppies. And aside, because it was a different format, the SJ Research MDFS had its own disk format, but a guy called J.G. Harston on the internet has got a load of tools he's written to read these disks. So I got his tool. One thing I found, well, first off, the normal ADFS on the BBC Micro can have fewer directory entries than MDFS.
Oh.
And I discovered 15-year-old me had used the extra directory entries you got in MDFS with wild abandon. And I was trying to copy this on my BBC Master onto an ADFS, so I had to modify this. But anyway, the upshot for all these disks, which were 30-odd years old, all these floppy disks, every single one of them was perfectly readable.
Cool.
Huh, yeah.
The magic of magnetic media.
So I copied all this stuff off, and then copied off my BBC Micro. Onto my PC, and then because I've made a kind of an archive, I had to revive my. Well, in fact, I did it a lot better because I was kind of bad when I was a kid. I was kind of bad at 6502 assembly language because I learnt Z80 first, and I was always trying to write 6502 code like it was a Z80, which doesn't really work because they're quite different. So. But this time I knew better because I was older and wiser. So I actually wrote an archiver to archive these disks in 6502 ASM. Copied it all off, and then I found the guy who I'd written this mod with. I tracked him down and I said, "I've got all this data. I've been sent all these disks. I've got all the data off them. Do you want it?" So I sent him a copy of this archive. So we've got our data back. And it's really funny looking back at that code I wrote when I was that age. And well, the first thing I'd done, I'd minified because half of it was written in BBC Basic, and I'd used a code minifier to get it to fit into the memory, and then promptly lost the original source code. Back in the day, I remember doing it, and I remember kicking myself at the time. And I looked at it, I thought I could probably figure out what's going on and unminify it, but I had to basically rewrite it. But the other thing was finding other little tools and utilities we'd written, and it was bizarre. It was like a time capsule from me from years ago, and some of the weird things we did with code. It was just like out of ignorance. It was like,
I mean, props to you for being able to do assembler as a 15-year-old. And most people don't even really do assembler, even as adults, because it's, you know, not that considered that useful a skill these days. But you know, I know what you mean. I tried assembler at one point, and it's like I'm not good at this.
I still do it. I was because I essentially my day job boils down to embedded electronics. So funny enough, I was actually stepping through 6502 code at work on Friday.
Oh. Interesting.
But yeah, and because my day job involves recreating retro consoles, so
very cool
computers. So we're working on an Atari project at the moment. So I've built this prototyping board so we can run in an emulator actual real Atari cartridges. So actually reading them using a physical real cartridges, but running them on a PC.
Okay, that's interesting.
So I've built some prototyping hardware to do it, and I've got a headache tomorrow to deal with that, because I've got this. It's actually one of the modern cartridges. This Atari Max flash, 1 megabyte flash card, and it's doing something really weird. So I think Monday I'll be stepping through 6502 code again.
Brave soul in
unfortunately,
Meanwhile,
Atari
back at the jump, it looks as if our jump target is gradually drifting behind the planet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's quite close to the.
I'll hurry up. I'll start my presentation now, and then we can return in a little bit. Okay, the link is in the Crew Lounge chat, and I will start in just a moment. Okay, but yeah, thanks for that, JBL. You're correct. It's like I hadn't noticed the drift, but it is doing it quite slowly. Okay, bear with me, and I will see you in the stream in a second. Okay, wonderful. Right, let's head over. Everyone in YouTube land, hello. I hope you're having a good evening. Right, okay, let's leave the expedition for a second and head back to the good old moon. And the voyages of the namesake of this expedition, Apollo 14. And our old moon phase animation. Okay, back in the Apollo era. Yeah, that's. I think that might actually post-date Apollo, but it's like a very nice sort of logo for that whole era anyway. But anyway, let's continue. Right, in the previous expedition, Expedition Waypoint, we talked about the command module and the service module, and also the wonderful lunar module, Antares, that actually descended to the surface. This is all the lunar landing sites of the Apollo program on screen at the moment, but it's mostly sort of equatorial ones, but there were thoughts about having ones further afield as the program got more and more mature. Obviously there were really like flights 18, 19 and 20, but those were cancelled because Congress refused to provide the money for any more Saturn V. So basically that's where the Apollo program ended, and that's why the Apollo program ended. Not really sort of anything to do with the actual spacecraft themselves, because there had actually been the lunar module more or less completed for Apollo 18, and the command and service module existed for such a mission. As far as I remember, those ended up being used in the Apollo-Soyuz test project, but that's another story for another day. Yeah, exactly. The Logan was just mentioning about the source code hack that saved the mission, but that absolutely is a thing, and something we'll be talking about, but not on this particular thing. Actually, Mac will probably be talking about, I expect, on the next Waypoint because this obviously is my last one for this expedition. But continuing onwards, we have obviously the geology part of Apollo 14 was kind of one of the key reasons that they were sort of going back to the old Apollo 13 landing site of Frau Morrow, and this is obviously Alan Shepard in training in some quite impressive areas in North America, and also I think in Germany where there's this old crater that they were trying to kind of acclimatize themselves to what a crater would be like at distance, but obviously looks very different sort of on the moon. I'm not sure this particular shot was. It could be the Arakopian Mountains, but I'm not sure about that. Similarly, obviously, they were training to use the lunar rickshaw, the so-called MET. And this is the pair of them, Shepard on the left, Mitchell on the right, doing so. But yeah, geology was becoming more and more of a component, a key component of Apollo missions. And obviously all of them are taking different samples, and here 14 was the first one really to take sort of samples from further afield than really their landing site or its immediate vicinity. And obviously Frau Morrow was, as we've mentioned previously, considered to be one of the great areas of the moon of lunar geologists who were interesting. Now, speaking about lunar geologists, a very specialist profession, as part of the training, I think the man on the right, if I'm not mistaken, is Dr. Lee Silver, who was brought in to help train the astronauts in geology. And obviously I think he was actually brought into NASA by none other than what ended up being the Apollo 17 lunar module pilot, Harrison Smith, aka Dr. Rock, the only geologist to have landed on the moon, and that's why they sent him there. But as we know, this is these are the lunar module crews. On the left we have the backup lunar module crew of CERN and Engel, and the prime crew that we know of obviously is Mitchell and Shepard in the middle, looking very 70s in their style. The cowboy one I think aged a little bit better than the other guys, but that's just the way it is. Right, okay. Yeah, just barely is corrected as like the name for a lunar geologist is a selenologist, as in Selene being the goddess of the moon, and obviously selenocentric orbits is the way you describe a lunar orbit in astronomical terms. Now, our old stomping ground of the whole area of Cone Crater and its approaches, but I thought this was interesting, this picture, only because it sort of does show the sort of, how the terrain sort of lay and the relative steepness of different parts of it, but there is a reason for that. Yes, they're saying in chat, taking rock hounding to a new extreme, and that's true. They were trained to actually be able to pick different rocks upon the moon and sort them into different kinds, and what would be something that they'd like to sample and something that they wouldn't. Now, this is quite interesting because the rock we're going to talk about today is a particularly interesting one. Not just any old rock, but it's like one of the most important discoveries in the history of space exploration, and one they didn't even realize they'd made at the time. It's a rock, as I say, that one 14321, called Big Bertha. Some of you may have heard of this, but most people haven't. I mean, when I first started doing these expedition organizing, I had never heard of it, because it was only in 2019 they actually found out about its true composition and its relevance in the history of the solar system. Obviously that Station C1 there, which is I think the closer they got to Cone Crater, when they'd abandoned the climb to Cone, they basically tried to find the best possible samples they could that would have been connected with the Cone Crater impact, and obviously part of the reason they were there was to retrieve these samples for the geologists back on Earth to actually analyze and find out as much as they possibly could. Now, there was some controversy in between the scientists and the astronaut corps and NASA as a whole about the level of training and all of the level of attention to their training that astronauts were paying at this point. Obviously, this being like the longest on-foot mission, they expected to collect a certain number of samples. But some of the senior geologists were complaining that this particular crew wasn't paying enough attention to their training. But it seems in retrospect that may not have actually been as accurate as they thought. Maybe it was the manner of where their test pilots are, they're appearing to not pay attention when they actually are paying attention, and actually paying probably quite close attention to what's going on. But ultimately, near Cone, they found this piece, say, of ejecta from a meteor impact the moon, and it was thought at the time to be important. That's why they picked up. It's about the size of a football there, so it was quite substantial. I think it needed the two of them to actually lift it up and put it in the container to be taken back. But at the time, this was the biggest sample, that single sample that was taken on the whole expedition, and they thought, well, this is probably the best possible sample we're going to get. It's near enough to the crater we were supposed to get into, or at least find the edge of. It's in the right region, and it'll probably be quite good. So yeah, maybe the training actually did sink in after all, but they weren't ready to know that for quite some time. When they returned to the Earth, on the right there you can see where Shepard's looking down is the Big Bertha rock. This is in the Lunar Returning Laboratory, I think a few weeks probably after they returned. This was, the Lunar Returning Laboratory was also a place where they would quarantine the first 3 lunar landing missions, but at this point they didn't know obviously if there was any contaminants that they might bring back from the moon. But this was also the last flight they would quarantine the crews. I think this could actually be during the quarantine period, which lasted about 6 weeks. So during this, there were obviously certain civilians who were sort of cleared to come into sort of quarantine with them. And, during this time they did obviously some serious work, including this analysis of some of the rocks they had found. Obviously they did take some interest, even if they weren't actually geologists themselves. Now, the intriguing part of this is that this particular fairly ordinary looking rock may actually have been the biggest discovery of the Apollo program geology wise. There's the famous Genesis rock of Apollo 15, which was at the time considered to be an absolutely crucial part, maybe a part of the moon's primordial crust, and it was important, but not as important as thought at the time. Though a noteworthy discovery nonetheless. Big Bertha was the opposite. It was thought to be initially just a fairly sort of, good but unremarkable piece of the moon. It turned out it was not actually part of the moon at all. Scientists from 2019 now actually to the present believe that this rock is not from the moon. It is actually a meteorite impact from the Earth about 4 billion years ago. What you are looking at there is literally the oldest Earth rock found anywhere in the solar system, even on the Earth. So going to the moon, they did not expect to find pieces of the early Earth. It's literally, I think there's some debate whether this is the actual oldest rock or thereabouts, but it is very likely to be the oldest single piece of the Earth of 4 billion years ago. If you think about the meteorite bombardments that happened to the Earth in that era, it wouldn't be too difficult for a small chunk of it to be then thrown out and then captured by lunar gravity and then pulled into the moon. And then obviously in the impact site around the Fralmoro Highlands, this little rock became part of that. And so, after actually I think by this point, unfortunately both Shepard and Mitchell had passed away, they didn't know that they'd actually discovered something that was like truly unusual and so far to date unique. So hats off to them. They really were paying attention after all to their geology training, but maybe it just didn't appear that way at the time. But there we have it. It's the continuing adventure of Apollo 14 with its little backup crew at the bottom. The first team, Serned, Evans and Engel. But they certainly looked like they had fun as well. Well, that's an important thing about science. We can learn great things, but at the same time, we just learn to enjoy it and have as much fun as we reasonably can. Because, the universe is to be enjoyed. It isn't just a static and boring thing. Right, I will now return us to the game. Oh yes, Logan's saying that I've never heard of this, but this is the thing. It's like, I read a lot of stuff about space exploration and that era of Apollo, and I only fairly recently discovered this myself, but it wasn't the headline grabbing thing that you would have thought. You thought this had been more widely circulated in the media, and it hasn't been. But still, here we are. Okay. I'm returning now to the formation, returning to Elite, and we're ready for our mass jump. Yeah. Mad Murdoch is making a good point also in chat about 400 kilometers to pick up a piece of home. Yeah, 400, more than 400 kilometers, but yeah, 400k kilometers. Sorry, I stand corrected. But yeah, it is interesting though what they found, and some of it's not obvious. But then again, the Earth and Moon are very closely related system. So yeah, it's all fascinating, but it's something cool to look up. Anyway, back in Elite. Right, I think we're ready to go now. I think everyone's arrived within the instance. We can all spool up. I think we can jump quite soon. Okay, right.
By the way, I wish I'd had my mic on at that time, because you literally got a what out of me.
That's good. I'd like to have heard that. That would have been funny. Yeah, it's not what you expect, is it? It's like you thought there could be, or they found a great piece of the primordial crust of the moon or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was just like, so, because at the time I think a lot of people criticized Alan Shepard, particularly because he's the leader of this mission, and being that, oh, he didn't pay enough attention. But he was the one who discovered it. He was the one who found it. And he never knew. That's always one of the wildest parts of it. Yeah.
That's the only part that's a real shame about that, is he didn't know. But
Yeah.
that's the way a lot of science goes. Sometimes, the guy who discovers a crucial bit never knows how it's going to impact people later.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's true. Some scientists are not really realized in their own time, or some discoverers in this case.
Yeah. Well, guess it's time for jumping.
Yep, we're all raring to get on, and we have this lovely sort of eclipse with a gas giant into the nebula. It's not a gas giant with rings, but it looks pretty cool still.
Yeah.
There seems to be a goose on the loose. What's the goose? Okay, cool. I think we're all lined up and we're all ready to get going. Right, okay, I'll start the count shortly. Right, ready in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and hit it.
Well, that's interesting. It made the dropping out of hyperspace noise, and then didn't.
Yeah, really?
Oh, whoa! Holy cow! That's a lot of probes.
It's very nice, isn't it? Like a spider's web across the sky.
Gotta get out of that. Oh wow! When you see all the when you go out a bit of distance from the star, and you see all the probes going around it, that's pretty. That's pretty.
It is.
Probes are not actual physical objects, are they?
Yeah.
What they are?
Yeah.
I wonder if anybody's ever been hit by them on a planetary surface.
I hope not. Imagine you minding your own business, doing a little survey on a planet, and you get hit in the face by a probe.
How many people have read A Clash of Symbols by James Blish, the last of his Cities in Flight?
I don't think so.
I know the author James Blish, but I don't recall. I don't think I've read anything of his beyond his Star Trek adaptations.
Okay, great classics of mid 20th century science fiction. The Cities in Flight ends with the end of the universe,
Wow.
but just before it happens, the heroes are on a planet which is being bombarded by another civilization called the Web of Hercules, and it describes these things very much like our probes, appearing across the sky and just creating this spider web of radiation. Every time I see these probes, I think of the end of that novel.
I can see why, yeah. It is beautiful, isn't it? I think especially with the stars.
Cosmology has kind of wavered back and forth. One of the more interesting theories I've heard of late is that maybe the Big Bang wasn't necessarily a Big Bang, but the intersection of one universe with another.
Yeah, it's an interesting theory, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it isn't the first of its kind, the Big Bang, and it might not be
Yeah.
the last either.
Not at all.
It would make a lot more sense, because remember, I think there was it Cepheid variable stars that were found to be older than the age of the universe, which makes no sense if the Big Bang is 100% true. So maybe it's just, like, partially true, as you say. It's like one explosion that's, created the universe, but one of many,
Right. I think that the whole Cepheid variable thing might have been the impetus that got them thinking about that and doing calculations.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that they've proven anything one way or another, but it's an interesting idea.
I think when you get to this level of hypothetical sort of physics or theoretical physics, it is kind of, obviously there's experiments that you can do and observations you can make, but you can truly never actually know because it's just so macro. Everything is just so big and so distant, and
by the way, I hate to tell you, but we've bombarded that star so much that we've pushed it out of the main sequence, and it's going supernova in half an hour.
Oh damn! Better get going.
Can you move your carrier this evening then?
I'm in a different system.
Oh yeah.
It'll still take several years for the light from the supernova explosion to reach the Waypoint 7 system.
Yeah.
True. But yeah, it's no, the carrier thing is such a strange thing. Anyone who's got a carrier who's tried moving one recently knows that you've got to do it at a very antisocial hour to get it to move at all. And it's just no fun. It's just like, seriously. I mean, hopefully, I think I've discussed this before on like stream probably, but hopefully FDev will maybe try and simplify the way that they do this so that in future, even if there is a like congestion, it won't be too bad. Like, you might get a delay, but you'll actually be able to jump.
Yeah.
But there's no queue that you can just pop it into and then go to bed.
No.
Unfortunately, no. I think carrier automation would be a
can
great thing, but yeah.
Yeah, so you can't just set it and forget it. You have to actually be there when it jumps and just wait for your turn.
Sadly, no.
Mhm.
But yeah.
It sounds like
I mean, these
the
days, if
lowest
you do
hanging
get a
fruit to
slot,
fix.
yeah, if you do get a slot, you can put your carrier in the slot, and then you can go to bed
Gotcha.
because it'll be that long before it jumps.
Yeah, exactly. But you'll know pretty quickly. It'll just literally tell you whether you're in a slot or not. Like, I jumped my carrier once in the bubble in like the last month, and it took like an hour and 15 was the delay. So I did that. I just went to bed after that because there's nothing else you could do. And the rest of the time, it just said like, you know, it's like no failure. Yeah, it wouldn't allow you to do it.
Yeah.
I think I'll return to skier in that case and park my ship.
Yeah, I'm on my way, but it will go probably about 9 o'clock in game time tomorrow.
Cool.
I am curious, given that they knew past updates had caused a backlog of carrier jumps, introducing a feature where they knew people were going to be hauling stuff in their carriers jumping them like mad. They didn't address that.
It's a funny kind of it's funny that they didn't think about it. It didn't occur to them, you know. But yeah, sometimes this happens though in any organization. Like, you know, seemingly obvious just doesn't get picked up for some reason. They're just so busy looking at one particular point of focus. The sort of very obvious gets forgotten. But this is why I think most people here at some point have advocated the idea of Frontier should probably hire a bunch of like the player base and get them sign NDAs and just like use them as sort of like, you know, ad hoc testers essentially, like they're about to put a new beta out or something. Exactly. So that they can have a look at it and saying, look, this carrier thing's a problem. It's going to cause a huge headache when you actually, you know, just blatant things that even the actual FDev internal testers might miss, because even then they're still actually working off the FDev sort of, you know, sheets as it were and their priorities. So they get kind of caught up in one way of thinking, but the player base thinks differently, because obviously we tend to like push the boundaries of things probably more than most testers would, even if that's kind of their job to do that.
Well, and I'm not sure a small group would trigger that particular problem.
True, but yeah.
It would depend on what the server's hard limit is on the number of queued carrier jumps.
They should have automated testing tools that can simulate the load of a lot more users and do it on a smaller hosting platform so that it can cope with less load.
No, you're right. They do have the ability to do, but obviously for some reason they've either never done that, or there's something about their test that they thought it was going to be fine and it absolutely wasn't.
I think the whole thing with server load is something that you have to wonder if they just haven't, you know, how do they keep missing that? Because it keeps coming up on various aspects of the gameplay, you know.
Well,
I don't know if they miss it. I think they're probably just weighing the priorities, right? So they look at it and go, well, how many people have fleet carriers? It's a small number. They're really diehards. They're not going anywhere. I need to... and I'm not saying they're doing a bad thing with this or they're being deliberately malicious in any way.
Sure.
Oh, no.
They have limited resources, and as we saw at the beginning of last year, they had, you know, they were in a tight spot financially. So it's only this last year plus of initiatives that has really boosted their revenues. And, and that's the most important thing, is they need to make sure they can make money.
True.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they've actually dropped server capacity and tested it carefully to be like, okay, where's the minimum we need to be to keep the game running, to cut costs after last year? You know what I'm saying? So
you got to
they got to make sure they can make money and stay afloat.
They've
the
also,
problem
I'm
is
sure.
Hmm.
Go ahead.
the problem is that with their revenue model, it doesn't matter how many people are playing the game, they don't make any more revenue unless those people are actually buying additional ARX.
Cosmetics. Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's
They,
true.
they have absolutely no revenue stream from their existing user base playing the game.
And it may also be that they've looked at the numbers from past releases and said, well, how quickly is this traffic going to fall off? Is it worth the investment to up, our hardware ability for that 3-week period? It's going to be off the rails, or do we just let the players ride it out?
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure there's an element of that. And the difference, as Yannick said this time, is they introduced a feature which is absolutely designed to require people to make intensive use of their carriers.
Yeah.
So I guess they didn't. It's weighing options. Yeah, exactly.
But actually, they clearly never tested at all, because the CMM composites issue should have come up instantly.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Building one station
They also couldn't
required
predict the
more
uptake.
True.
Well, it's not even that. Building one station required more than the total CMM composite output of the entire bubble emission.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of seemed disingenuous, sort of like, oh, oops. Like, you guys really knew that.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to come up with numbers. So the moment they came up with numbers, someone would have looked over the other guy's shoulder and said, or the other young lady's shoulder and said, hey, do you think players are going to be able to find that much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We may have a demand and supply problem.
Yes.
Just to attach something I was mentioning earlier, it's like, I don't think even at the worst part of Frontier's, should we say, public relations gaffes they've made with the player base, they've ever actually been malicious. I think they've miscalculated, definitely, and they've probably been massively over-optimistic or, like, underestimated various things. But no, I don't think anyone's ever thought they were malicious, or no one who's being sensible was ever accused of being malicious. It's like, I think the worst thing they've been accused of is just basically, like, not having any common sense when it came to, like, I think the launch of Odyssey and the tests for that, because the alpha did not go that well, and then they just launched it anyway, and it's just like, well, what happened to even the beta test? Aren't you supposed to, like, sequentially do this? And it's like, why are you launching something that you've still got obvious problems with? It just didn't make any sense on any level. But yeah, to say, it's like, no one thinks they're malicious. It's just sometimes the planning has been bad or not existent, and at the worst case, I must admit, Frontier has got better over the last few years again. It's gone through a period where it went sort of, I think a lot of people left basically working on this game and moved to other Frontier projects, or left the company completely. Of like it's called the first generation of FDev developers who worked on the lead. And so after they had mostly moved on, you had a situation where a lot of people were kind of learning the ropes, or not really knowing that much about not just the game, but the player base as well, because it's quite a complicated and kind of fairly diverse sort of player base as well.
Yeah, I've been happy with progress the last year, definitely year plus.
Oh yeah.
I've been very happy with this game. I've played a very long time.
It looks like they're paying attention to it.
To be honest, like, how many MMOs exist for 10 years? Not many.
Yeah. I mean, even if they're not traditional MMOs, I almost don't think of this as a traditional MMO. I think if they had, there's one thing they need. They need a market, an in-universe market for people to buy and sell stuff they've made, crafting, etc., etc. Like, say, okay, we have engineering, but what if you could actually craft yourself, gain skill in engineering, and say, gain skill in engineering a particular type of module, and then you could sell that module on the open market.
Yeah, I think the reason that they haven't done that, and it's very much a philosophical reason, is they don't want any vehicle for people to be making financial trades for in-game things outside the game with real money.
Although this would be internal, it wouldn't be for real money.
Well, except that it could be.
Yeah, somebody on
You
Facebook
could
Marketplace says, "I'll sell you this engineered FSD
Oh,
drive I
okay.
made. You
Yeah.
pay
Yeah.
me." Yeah.
That can
Well-
happen, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, the moment you
could-
give the ability to transfer assets directly from
Yeah.
commander
I mean,
to commander or something
yeah.
like that, you open up that
Yeah, I
door.
mean,
And I think there's
yeah.
ways, maybe there's a workaround with carriers. and stuff.
Yeah, honestly, I
You-
wouldn't
you
be
c-
surprised
You,
if
you can
carriers
transfer
weren't already
credits
being
through
used for
carriers very easily,
Yeah.
and that violates the conditions of the game. And if you do it to excess, you will get kicked off. It's okay to do it between yourself and your alts, or between yourself and a couple of mates for specific reasons occasionally. But if you start making a business of it, you'll be thrown off.
Yeah.
Oh, you can trade on your carrier quite legitimately the materials through the bartender.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I've made a reasonable amount, because that allows people who like to run around bases and pick around stuff can do that and sell the fruits of their labour to people who can't be asked with doing that, but still want to
Yeah.
engineer their suits.
Yeah.
So
People like me.
manufacturing instructions, I've made I always set the bar up to the maximum price because people will pay it.
Yeah.
But again, that's in-game currency.
Yes. Yeah.
It's hard to essentially, once you put something on the market in the bar, anyone can buy it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can't do a private trade with someone. Well, I suppose
Yeah,
you could open the window very briefly. But
Yeah.
Well, maybe what you need is not necessarily an open market, but something like an auction house.
Yeah, you could do a kind of stock market kind of auction house where people put in their
In other words,
sell
you could put it
price
on the
and their buy price for things. And
right. You could put it on the auction house, and then you don't know who's going to buy it. You just
Yeah.
set your price and see if somebody will pay it.
Yeah.
I mean, it behooves them to integrate more of that trade into a carrier. Tie it all into the in-game mechanisms, tie it into the in-game credit sinks. I mean, anyone who reads about how MMOs are built, like, they need to have a credit sink. And right now, the biggest credit sink goal is the carrier. And right now, and also the new colonization initiative is a potentially big credit sink, right? Because you got to pay an upfront fee to get a system, and then stuff like that. And they need that kind of thing. But yeah, introducing more marketplaces and things like that leans towards more inflationary pressures.
See, I don't know that I would call colonization and inflationary a real credit sink, because you're getting paid for the materials. And hell, I got on this morning and did 2 trade runs and made 30 million credits.
There you go. Okay.
So you can pretty easily make that barrier to entry.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, colonization is interesting because obviously it's in its infancy at the moment, and it'll probably be adjusted at some point. But yeah, it's had some very interesting sort of bottlenecks in the game, definitely. Not just with certain composites as well, but yeah, it is fascinating. The way that I was surprised actually how many people have done it. How many people have been enthused by it, I should say.
Oh yeah, that statistic they cited 8,000 colonized systems by the time they paused it. That's a huge number of systems. That's a massive amount of activity.
Totally.
That was very impressive. And since I don't have any alts, I'm out here in the deep black going, hey, I'm missing out.
Yeah, don't worry. There'll be plenty of time.
The FOMO while they work on it. But again, yeah, they're gonna work out the kinks. It's gonna be better than ever. They're gonna iron things out, and so that's fine. But I spend enough time playing video games. I've burned enough time in my life to play video games. I can't conscience buying an alt.
If it helps you any, I bought one and didn't bother to plant a system. I went and ran materials for other people, and then it paused on me.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I think you can still run the materials, right? You can still deliver to.
Yeah, as long as you.
Has it paused all the activity? I think it's only for claiming them, right?
Yeah, it's only paused claiming of new systems. If you have a system in progress, you can continue to add stations to that system and work on any under progress construction. You just can't claim new systems.
I think that's right.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. So people can still keep cruising along and doing missions for that.
The way it
Oh,
is,
yeah,
though, so one person can build a system by themselves, but it's a lot of work. So it's just much easier if you do it as even like 2 or 3 people in a group. Makes it so much easier.
Yeah, we've been, because I've been playing with another group of people doing that, and it's not uncommon for like 2 of us to log in and, you know, an hour's work, you can load or unload a carrier without a whole lot of fuss if you've parked it in the right spot.
True. Yeah. But yeah, I'll give
Well,
a cautious welcome to the colonization feature. It does seem to be decent at the moment. As we all say, it's like there are still issues to be worked out, but the basis of it seems, yeah, pretty good.
Oh yeah. I think they'll figure out the bugs and work it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
the
enjoyed
bug that
what
I've
I've-
seen is it's just not there aren't that many bugs in it. It's just a matter of the bugs
Yeah,
they've
what-
cited in their posting, but I haven't seen people up in arms saying, "Oh, it's crashing all the time." And
Right. Yeah.
all I've seen is longer jump times, and I think that's probably just more strain on the servers.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But nothing that's blowing up. I have seen some connectivity issues, like as I'm signing into the game, it'll like kick me out every so often.
Yeah.
And then I won't be able to get back in for a little bit of time. But other than that, no massive instability. So
Right.
for such a big feature, it's quite a good rollout, I think. But unfortunately, I have to run. Thank you so much for hosting, Yannick, and for setting up these events. This is awesome.
Thank you.
I had a
Thank you
great
for coming.
time.
I'm
And I love the historical backgrounds and the presentations. They're wonderful as well. So thank you very much for producing them and putting it all together.
Oh yeah.
Thank you very much.
Now, since you're not going to actually be able to hit the last 2 waypoints, you got to.
Yeah.
Are you going to like pre-record?
No, what I'm going to be doing is like I'm handing it off to sort of Mac to do his own thing. I'm basically saying to him, it's like, you can do your own thing. It's just like this is what I had kind of penciled in as like roughly what I was going to talk about. So, yeah, it's down to his own sort of judgment, and I'll probably point him in the way of a few resources as well. But it's but I think some of the more, should we say, there's some cool stuff, including the details of the reprogramming in the computer. That is, Mac's probably the best person to do that because he works obviously in computing and hardware and stuff, and he knows a lot about also the reconditioning of I think it's the Apollo 11 guidance system, which is really cool piece, and he'll probably end up talking about that as well. So that's very interesting. So there's the whole bunch of stuff that he'll end up sort of covering as well. So he's basically like deputizing for me because JBL actually is my deputy, but he won't be there either. So it's it's unfortunate timing right at the end of the expedition. Well, being in the middle, it wouldn't have been so annoying, but it's one of those things. It's like I'll still be in Discord, probably making comments and stuff and watching videos and Jeffrey cheering everyone else on. But yeah, it's been great. It genuinely
You will be
has.
missed.
Sorry, could
Oh,
you
yeah.
repeat that? I didn't quite hear the last bit.
So you will be missed.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sitting in the bar at the moment, but if anyone's also around, I'm skier at the moment. I'm just like panning the camera around, having a quick look at things.
Well, I'm already out of game. I was just chatting with you guys, but ooh, dang, it's almost 4 o'clock. Eesh.
It's 4 o'clock. It's almost 6 o'clock.
Speaking of needing to get out of here, I think that's the cue for me.
Okay.
All right, we'll see you
I'm
guys
not,
later, and don't eat any peppers you can't handle.
Always sage advice.
Yes, there you go.
Have a great one, and I'll
Take
catch you
care.
out there.
You too. Bye bye.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Ship very nearly ended my existence.
If you look out the skier's bar window, you can actually see the nebula in the background, so it's quite a nice little touch for that. But yeah, it's one of the nicer sort of parts of the game. It should be added to itself as well. That's another thing for the developers to work on.
We were talking older tech and networking earlier, and I tossed up there in off topic. There's a guy out there that's got a active and running Mystic BBS node that you can
Okay.
connect into, and it's got a really active user base for the level of technology that it is. You know, there's a lot of people that still enjoy that kind of format on there, and they talk about all kinds of things. But
Yeah.
it's a neat bit of history in itself there in the computing world.
I'm glad that people still do preserve these tech bits of, you know, early internet technology, or just even pre-internet technology for that matter. You know,
Yeah,
it's-
this is pretty close to being pre.
I had a FidoNet BBS for a while.
really.
Yeah, FidoNet was it was a kind of a store and forward. It was BBS is basically organized such that each bulletin board system was a local call from the next. So you could send things like emails. This was in the days before unmetered phone calls. So you could send emails worldwide, essentially for the cost of a local call.
Nice. So it was basically a form of internet, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
The internet backbone.
It's kind of like it was kind of like things like UCP. It was a store and forward type network, and there were things called echoes, which were basically. I mean, everybody talks about the Fediverse and all these federation, you know, things like, what's it called? The one everyone wants to replace Reddit with. But none of this stuff is new. I mean, FidoNet did this, and in many ways, better, because Lemmy, for instance, you have a community on Lemmy, which is like a forum or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's, although many Lemmy sites can carry it, essentially the community itself belongs to a single Lemmy site. So if that site goes down, the community goes with it. But FidoNet Echoes, just like Usenet news groups, are truly distributed. So once you've created it, it's truly distributed. It doesn't depend on any one node in the system, because the whole thing's a big peer-to-peer network.
Yeah, more I was gonna say like a BitTorrent almost.
So yeah, that's really the way to do it. And so it used to be done better in the past, funny enough.
Yeah.
That's like people that don't realize their cell phones are actually radios, and the ham radio operators were doing that in the 70s with phone patch at the repeater site.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, it's we've still got several in my area that are active. Basically, you have your repeater site up on a hill somewhere, and you've got a phone line run to it.
We got quite a good amateur repeater network here because of our geography.
Oh yeah.
We got kind of a big hill in the middle of the island, so if you're in the north, you don't have line of sight to the south, and vice versa. So we've got 4 repeaters all linked. So if you talk on one, it comes out of all the others.
Oh, that's nifty.
So you get decent coverage.
I've only ever caught Brits on HF. I've got Echolink and IRLP set up. I suppose I could link in over there.
Yeah.
A little jealous though, with the 4-meter band over there. It would be, especially in the area I'm in. We're here on the eastern coast of the U.S. I'm not coastal, but I'm on the eastern side of the country, and it's a good bit hillier. And something like 4 meters would really fill a niche gap over here.
Interesting. Anyway, it's been wonderful, everyone, and I think I'll have to call it a night myself.
Yeah,
but I will.
Back to land. I've found a planet with lots of biologicals, so I'm going to land on it and explore it tomorrow.
Right. Let's say I will catch all of you still in the Discord for the next few weeks, and for the remainder of the meetups to come, have a great one, and I will see you all soon in some shape or form, hopefully.
Pleasure as always.
Ta-ra. And a good night to you, everyone out there on the internet, on YouTube. It's been a great one. and hopefully I will see you in some kind of future elite form, maybe in the not too distant future. As they say, keep watching the skies. I will see you all soon.